My mother-in-law sent out wedding invitations. My name wasn't on mine. It's his day, not yours, she smirked. I handed it back and said, then I guess you don't need me there. She laughed until my fiancé opened his invitation and realized what else she had changed. I'm 33F, engaged to my partner, Adrian, who's 35M. We've been together for over 5 years now, and things have been pretty good. We get along well, and the relationship is solid. But when it comes to his mom, well, let's just say she's not exactly my biggest fan. To give you some context, Adrian and I met a little later in life, after we'd both had our share of failed relationships. We hit it off immediately, and it wasn't long before we were talking about the future. The thing is, I've always felt like Adrian's mom, Janice, didn't really approve of me. She's the type of person who thinks she knows what's best for her son, and usually that means making sure he sticks with the women she thinks are right for him. Of course, I'm not one of those women. I have a mind of my own, and I've always been independent, which has never quite sat well with Janice. Anyway, when Adrian proposed, I was over the moon. It was everything I had hoped for until we started talking about the wedding. From day one, Janice was all over the details, offering unsolicited advice, pushing her vision for the event, and stepping all over our plans. She had her own ideas about what proper weddings should look like, and it was clear she expected us to fall in line. But the thing that really set me off was when the invitations arrived. I didn't even think to question it at first. I just assumed the envelope would have our names printed on it, mine and Adrian's, since we were, the couple getting married. But when I opened the envelope, I found a single invitation with Adrian's name at the top. No mention of mine. I was confused at first. I thought maybe it was a mistake, so I turned the invite over, but nope, there was no mention of me. It just had his name and the date. No, and guessed. Nothing. Just him. I stared at it for a moment before it dawned on me. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. I decided to keep my cool, sort of. I didn't want to overreact, but I was hurt. So, I confronted Janice the next time I saw her, and when I brought it up, she just smiled that smug smile of hers and shrugged. Oh, I think you misunderstood, she said. It's his day, not yours. I'm sure she expected me to take it in stride, but I didn't. I wasn't about to let her belittle me, not in my own relationship. I looked at her, took a deep breath, and said, then I guess you don't need me there. Her smile faltered for just a second, but then she laughed. She actually laughed. It's a wedding, sweetie, she said in that condescending tone of hers. Don't take it personally. You'll be fine. It's about Adrian. I was furious, but I held my ground. If it's about Adrian, then you've made your point. I'll let him decide if he wants me there. I didn't mention it to Adrian right away. I wanted to see how things would play out. After all, this wasn't just an issue with Janice, it was something that involved him too, and I wasn't sure how to handle it yet. It wasn't until later that evening when I saw him staring at his invitation, his brow furrowed, confusion clear on his face. Why's my name the only one on here? He asked, his voice a little unsure. I shrugged, trying to mask the anger I was feeling. I guess it's because it's your day, not mine. I tried to keep it light, but he could see through me immediately. What do you mean by that? He asked, his eyes narrowing. I didn't have to explain. He looked back down at the invitation, scanning it more carefully, and that's when he noticed it. It wasn't just my name missing. Something else had been changed. She. Adrian trailed off. She put my name on this, but look here. He flipped the invite over and pointed at the RSVP section. Instead of the usual line for two people, there was just one. It was clear Janice had crossed out the guest section and left a single line for Adrian, as if I wasn't even in the picture. The room went silent. I could tell Adrian was upset, but at the same time, I could see him trying to process what had just happened. He wasn't angry yet, but I could tell it was coming. Why would she do this? He muttered to himself. I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that this was no longer just an issue between me and Janice. It was between Adrian and his mother now, and I could see the storm brewing. But this was only the beginning. The more we uncovered about Janice's manipulations, the worse it got. Adrian didn't say much after that. He just sat there, staring at the invitation, clearly torn between wanting to protect me and feeling like he had to choose between his mother and me. I could see it in his eyes. He was hurt, but also trying to process how his mom could be so blatantly disrespectful. I don't understand why she would do this, he said quietly, almost to himself. He ran a hand through his hair, his usual calm demeanor cracking slightly. I could tell he was struggling to make sense of it, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just a slip-up or a minor oversight. This was deliberate. Janice had been subtly undermining me for months, ever since Adrian and I had gotten engaged. She had this way of making me feel small, like I wasn't good enough for her precious son. The invitations were just the latest in a long line of her petty little tactics to remind me that I wasn't in control, that I didn't have a say in anything. Maybe she just wants to have control over everything, I suggested, trying to make sense of it too. Maybe she thinks this wedding is all about her. Adrian nodded slowly, his face hardening as he processed my words. I could see his mind working, trying to figure out what to do next. He was a good guy, but when it came to his mom, he often took the path of least resistance. He'd always been the peacemaker, and I could see how hard it was for him to confront her. I'll talk to her, he said finally, standing up. This isn't right. She shouldn't be doing this to you. I could tell he wanted to fix things, but a small part of me wondered if he was just trying to keep the peace. I wasn't sure if this was something that could be fixed with a simple conversation. Janice had a way of making everyone feel like they were the problem, even when it was clear she was the one causing all the trouble. Later that evening, Adrian went to call his mom. I didn't hear the conversation, but I could guess how it went based on the way Adrian's face shifted from frustration to resignation. When he hung up, he didn't look at me at first. I waited, my stomach twisting with anxiety. She says it was a mistake, he said finally, his voice flat. She's sorry about the invite, but she still thinks that I'm the one who should be the focus. I could tell from his tone that it wasn't really an apology, it was more like a dismissal. Janice never liked to admit when she was wrong. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, Adrian continued, looking at me carefully. But if this keeps happening, we need to set some boundaries with her. It's getting out of hand. It felt like a tiny victory, but deep down, I wasn't convinced. Janice had a way of making things appear resolved while never actually changing her behavior. I knew it was just a matter of time before she found another way to sabotage things. Over the next few days, Adrian and I tried to focus on the wedding planning. We had a lot to get done, and I didn't want this drama to overshadow everything. But Janice wasn't about to let us move on so easily. She had a way of inserting herself into every conversation, every decision, no matter how small. The worst part was when she started pushing us about the guest list. She insisted that we invite everyone she knew, including distant relatives and people we hadn't seen in years. Adrian didn't mind. He wasn't particularly close with half of the people on the list, but I was starting to feel suffocated. I didn't want a huge, impersonal wedding with people I barely knew. I wanted a small, intimate ceremony with the people who mattered most to us. But when I voiced my concerns, Janice shot them down. It's not just your day, dear, she said sweetly, her tone laced with something colder. It's Adrian's day too, and he wants his family there. And if you want this wedding to go smoothly, you'll listen to me. I bit my tongue. I wanted to argue, to tell her that this wasn't just about Adrian's family. It was about our family, our wedding. But I could feel myself getting sucked into her web of manipulation. The more I tried to push back, the more she played the family card, using guilt to make me feel like I was the one being unreasonable. And then came the next thing, the wedding dress. Janice had been pushing me to buy a specific dress, one she had already picked out, one that she loved. It was big and grand, something fit for a royal wedding. But when I looked at it, I didn't see myself in it. I wanted something simple, elegant, something that felt like me. When I told her that I had already bought a dress, one I had picked out with my best friend, Janice's face darkened. I really think you should reconsider, she said, her voice colder now. You'll regret not listening to me. It was clear that she wasn't just trying to be helpful anymore. She wasn't being the loving mother-in-law. She was trying to control every single detail of our wedding. And it wasn't just the wedding anymore. It was becoming clear that she was trying to control our entire relationship. As time went on, I found myself more and more distant from Adrian. Not because I didn't love him, but because I was starting to realize just how deep Janice's influence went. She was always there, always meddling, and it was beginning to strain things between us. The worst part was when she invited herself to the final dress fitting. I had no idea she would be there. I thought it was just going to be me and my best friend, a little celebration, just us girls. But when I walked into the shop, there she was, sitting in the corner, a smug look on her face as she watched me try on dresses. I felt like I was suffocating. I knew things couldn't go on like this, but I also knew that if I said anything, Adrian would be torn. He didn't want to upset his mom, but I wasn't willing to keep swallowing my feelings just to keep the peace. Then, at that fitting, Janice said something that would change everything. Something that made me realize how far she was willing to go to get what she wanted. The moment Janice spoke, I felt the air in the room shift, like something cold had just entered and taken over the space. I had just stepped out of the dressing room in a dress I was actually starting to like. A sleek, simple satin gown that felt like me, something I could wear with confidence. But the second I turned to look at Janice, I saw that smug, judgmental expression of hers, and I knew what was coming. "I don't think that one's quite right," she said, her voice like honey, but with a sharp undertone. "You know, a wedding dress should be memorable. It should make a statement." I looked over at my best friend, who had been with me through this entire process. Her face mirrored mine. She was just as taken aback as I was. "Janice, I've been looking for something simple," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "This is the one I feel comfortable in." Janice didn't even flinch. She just tilted her head and smiled that smile of hers, the one that always made me feel like I was somehow lesser. "Oh, I'm sure it's nice, dear, but you'll only wear it once. Are you sure you want to waste that opportunity on something so basic?" I tried to stay composed, but I could feel my blood starting to boil. This wasn't about the dress anymore. It was about the way she was trying to undermine my every decision, no matter how small. "I'm not wasting anything," I snapped, my patience running thin. "This is the dress I chose, and I'm wearing it." Janice's face hardened for just a split second, but she recovered quickly, and then the most ridiculous thing happened. She stood up, walked over to me, and put her hand on the dress like she was inspecting it, a disapproving look on her face. "Well, if you think this is good enough for Adrian, then fine. But I just thought you might want to make a better impression." My best friend, who had been quiet up until now, finally spoke up. "Janice, she's the one getting married here. You don't get to decide what's good enough for her." Janice turned to her, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, sweetie, I'm just giving my opinion. It's a mother's job, you know." The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. It felt like every nerve in my body was screaming at me to leave, to get away from her, but I couldn't. Not without making this worse. Adrian hadn't been there, and I knew that if I said anything too drastic now, it would make things worse between us. She was his mother, after all. I tried to shrug it off, not wanting to make a scene. "Well, I've made my decision, and I'm not changing it." Janice didn't look satisfied, but she dropped the issue, at least for the moment. I went back into the fitting room to get out of the dress, feeling more and more defeated. She didn't even seem to care about how I felt, only about what she thought was best. And that feeling wasn't new. It had been there, lurking in the background, every time she had inserted herself into our wedding plans. The moment I came out of the fitting room, Janice was on her phone, scrolling through something on the screen. I tried to push the interaction from my mind, but her presence still lingered like a shadow. Adrian hadn't been at this appointment, and while I had wanted to handle it on my own, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed his support. I tried to put it out of my head. I couldn't let her ruin this day, and I wasn't going to let her control me. Later that evening, Adrian and I sat down for dinner, and I could sense something had shifted between us. The weight of all the recent events, the pushback I'd been feeling from his mom, had been building, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it came to a head. Adrian cleared his throat and put down his fork. "So what happened at the fitting today?" I could tell he'd been waiting for me to bring it up. Janice happened, I said, my voice tight. She didn't like the dress I chose. And when I stood my ground, she made me feel like I was doing something wrong. Adrian winced, his expression pained. I know she can be difficult, but she's my mom. I don't want to get caught in the middle of this. I nodded, though it felt like a punch to the gut. I get that. But this is my wedding too. I can't keep letting her make decisions for us, Adrian. I'm not asking for her approval. I'm asking for you to stand by me when it matters. He looked away, his jaw tightening. I'll talk to her. I know she's overstepping, but I wasn't convinced. Talking to her hadn't worked before, and I had a feeling it wouldn't work now. Janice had a way of twisting things, of making everything her way, and Adrian had always been the one who would cave to avoid conflict. I didn't want him to be stuck in the middle of this, but at the same time, I needed him to see how much I was hurting. The next day, Janice showed up at the house unannounced. I had no idea what her plan was, but I wasn't in the mood for another round of her interference. She didn't even knock, just let herself in like she always did, expecting to be greeted with open arms. When she saw me, she put on her most insincere smile. I thought we could talk, darling. You've been a little tense lately. I crossed my arms, not even pretending to be welcoming anymore. What is it, Janice? She took a step closer, like she was trying to win me over, but I wasn't having it. I just wanted to make sure you knew that I wasn't trying to hurt you. I'm only looking out for Adrian. You know, you should be grateful for that. I stared at her, unblinking. I'm not asking for your help. I'm asking for respect. She just laughed, like this whole situation was some kind of joke to her. Oh, sweetie, you'll learn. It's all part of the process. His family is everything. That was the last straw. The words stung, but I could see exactly where this was heading. If I didn't put my foot down now, it was going to keep escalating. She wouldn't stop until she had all the control, and I wasn't going to let that happen. I looked her dead in the eyes, and for the first time, I said something that completely took her off guard. But before I could get another word out, the door opened. Adrian stepped in, and everything I had planned to say got stuck in my throat. What's going on? He asked, his voice heavy with tension. He was looking at Janice, then at me, waiting for an answer. Adrian's eyes flicked between me and Janice, confusion clouding his face. Janice, however, was completely unbothered. She put on a tight smile. I was just explaining to her how important it is to understand family dynamics, darling. A wedding isn't just about her, it's about both families. I could feel my patience snapping. This isn't about the dress, Adrian. It's about everything. She's been pushing me around since the engagement, acting like I don't matter. Janice's expression flickered for a second, then she laughed. Oh, sweetie, I'm just trying to help. You should be grateful I'm here. Adrian is my only son, and I want what's best for him. I snapped back. You've been controlling everything. I've asked you to stop, but you won't listen. It's never about what I want. You keep making it all about you, and Adrian doesn't stand up for me. Adrian looked torn. I don't want to cause problems, but maybe we can talk about this later? I shook my head. No, Adrian, this is the problem. I need you to stand by me, not her. Janice raised an eyebrow, looking like she didn't quite understand. I'm just trying to protect you. You'll thank me later. I couldn't take it anymore. I don't need your protection. I need you to respect me. Adrian finally spoke, his voice more serious than I'd ever heard. You're right, this ends now. I love you, Mom, but you're not going to control everything anymore. I'm with her, and you need to respect that. Janice's face went pale, and she huffed. This isn't over, Adrian. She turned and left without another word. Adrian sighed in relief, then turned to me. I'm sorry, I should have noticed earlier. I shook my head. It's not your fault. But now we need to set boundaries. He nodded, determined. We will. No more letting her control us. Update. The wedding's over, and honestly, I thought things would settle down. But the aftermath has been, well, let's just say I'm not sure what I expected. After the blow-up with Janice, Adrian and I decided to go no contact with her for a while. We set some boundaries, but honestly, it's been hard. She's tried reaching out a few times, sending messages through Adrian, asking to talk, and that she wasn't treated fairly. At the wedding, I could tell she was trying to make things about her again. She started making snide comments about my dress choice and the way things were handled, and it felt like all the work I'd done to keep the peace was just being undone. Adrian stuck by me, but I can tell he feels guilty about the whole situation. He's in a tough spot. Now, Janice is pushing harder to reconnect, but the whole thing feels so manipulative. I'm tempted to keep the distance and just move on, but Adrian keeps asking me to work things out because she's his mom, and he doesn't want to lose her. The problem is, I don't feel like I'm the one being unreasonable here, but I can't help but feel bad for Adrian. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for still holding firm on keeping boundaries with Janice? Should I give in and try to work things out for Adrian's sake, or should I just stick to my guns and not let her back into our lives? Would love opinions, especially if anyone's been through something similar. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever dealt with a situation like this? We'd love to hear your experiences.